My name is Lauren Embrey, and I was born in Dallas, Texas in 1958. I'm a native Dallasite. I grew up in Richardson, Texas, because my father was a real estate developer, and he and his partner developed Richardson. My father was a man of high integrity. My mom was a stay-at-home mom, but we also had an African-American woman who came to take care of us, myself and my sister, when I was 3 months old. Her name was Reggie. She did everything, cleaning the house, took us places and picked us up. She fixed dinner, cleaned up, and then she would go home. We loved her like a mother, and I believe she loved us as children. Dad had come to Gail and I and said, I'm looking at splitting the money that I've made my estate into 2 pockets, one in trust and the other for foundation dollars, and basically in a 50-50 split. Does that sound good to you? He asked, and we both were like, yeah, that does sound like a good fit.
Lauren Embrey has dedicated her life to fighting for others. She confronts bigotry and the implicit bias that we all have and tries to help others understand that.
We felt it was really important to support the Dallas Holocaust Museum because they were charting a new trail to take the beauty of what they'd already done and reflect the full picture of human rights. We're human beings. Where would we be without connection and without community and without each other?
The culture is created by the leader, especially as it relates to human rights and social justice. Among the initiatives that we have funded include Dallas Faces Race, Ignite Arts, Lee Tot Residential Center, the Dallas Women's Foundation, and Dance Exchange.
Lauren is a cheerleader for human rights and the central theme that all people are in fact equal. She lives it day to day.
Lauren Embrey is a person who's grappled with her privilege and the struggle that we all should face about implicit bias is something she's taken to a new level. In this discovery of implicit bias and how limiting it is, how insidious it is, and how unrecognizable it can be unless we're intentional.
We've always believed that awareness is the seed. Art is a great way to bring that awareness forth.
The creative spirit is a spirit that can move us in ways that oftentimes we cannot articulate, and sometimes we're better not articulating it, but feeling it almost on a cellular level, and it influences us.
You say you want a revolution, well, we all want to change the world. You tell me that it's evolution.
Lauren Embrey breaks down walls, and she breaks down barriers for artists and organizations like Academia Theater. Seeing a play for our audience members can expand their view of what it means to be who they are.
Thank you for being a friend. Travel down a road and back again.
Telling people that they're good, saying, go for it.
She is actually the voice that I want to have, or the voice that I didn't have. She's such a great role model for me. She's so bold and fearless, and I want to be just like that.
I am high energy, but Lauren probably talks faster than I do. It's just, so between the two of us, I know we're both listening to each other, but it's like these little, you know, if you're on the sidelines, I don't know what you would think about the way we go about our business and work and solving problems together.
Thank you for being a friend. Travel down a road and back again. Your heart is true, you're a pal and a
My mom just always let me kind of be myself. I think her biggest priority with us was really just finding what we loved and what we really wanted to do with our lives.
One of the lessons that, my mom taught me was to just be generous regardless. It's more important to give than to keep.
She has a great way of helping us remember that we're all human beings, that we're all sharing the same experience, and help us look for the things that we have in common rather than the things that divide us.
If there was such a thing as human cloning, she should be cloned. The world needs a lot more people like Lauren Embrey.
Lauren is an artist in humanity.
I know we're never going to have a world that's fully equitable in all the ways that maybe we view it, but by connecting to our heart and listening to the intuition, we have been able to make change and leverage individuals and ideas and innovative out-of-the-box thinking into something bigger and fuller that people are connecting with.
Thank you so much. I want to thank the Dallas Holocaust Museum, its board, supporters, docents, and all who walked through its doors. I want to thank Mary Pat and Frank Risch, who honored me with the invitation to receive this award. My sincere thanks to Drs. Rick Halprin and Brad Klein, and all who work with and support the Embrey Human Rights Program at SMU. Yay! All the organizations we partner with in Dallas, Texas, and across the nation. My dear friends Treya Yip and Sarah Losinger, who so graciously agreed to co-chair this event, and the honorary co-chairs, and all who offered their voices for the video. My sons Jeffrey and Lindsay Harwell, my partner Paul Yanez, and most importantly, my sister Gail, and the Embrey Family Foundation team, Diane Hosey, Sally Beck, Mike Majors, and Ben Ablon, who sat on the Embrey Family Foundation board from inception until his death in 2014. My deepest thanks goes to this community, whose vision and commitment has made the Dallas Holocaust and Human Rights Museum a forthcoming reality. Receiving this award is an incredible honor. When Mary Pat reached out to me in late January of this year to ask if I could find time for lunch with her and Frank to talk about getting more involved in the museum, I assumed, as our mind can so easily do, that I knew what this request meant: money or time. I very directly responded that I needed to wait, as I now had 2 jobs, plus my current board commitments, and I needed to get through the first quarter of the year. As I reflect back on that time, I now realize I was in a state of overwhelm and a deep feeling of loss. My life had taken a dramatic turn, and in my opinion, so had the country. I sat in a state of grief. Mary Pat responded that she only needed a few minutes. I was at home when we talked, and when she asked me if I would accept this acknowledgement, I was surprised and quite speechless. This request wasn't about money or time. My heart opened up as I felt the inherent gratitude contained in this award for the vision of the foundation and for the work and dollars we, as a team, had put out into the world to expand the awareness of human rights. In 2004, I began this philanthropic journey. I had found my niche, my spot. The seeds planted inside me from my life experience, my concern for human rights were now able to blossom and flourish. I had the assets I needed to make my statement, my mark. I was ready to learn it all, to explore, to discover, and to act. In 2004, I was filled with hope that I could and would make a difference. 6 years later, in 2010, I received my first award for philanthropic service, the Champion of Human Rights Award from Mosaic Family Services. I remember flying back from New York on a 6 a.m. flight to make sure I arrived in time for the event. I was filled with energy and anticipation for all that was on the horizon. I was overflowing with possibility and felt a growing sense of dedication and commitment to the cause. My awareness grew in leaps and bounds. In my speech, I wrote, "I know that I am a part of this noble endeavor. I work very hard and I am passionate. But I also know that it is about all of us, this community of humanity, these kindred spirits, this hopeful group of change makers who have vision and a responsibility to make things right for all people." As Teilhard de Chardin, the French philosopher and Jesuit priest, said, "The more aware we become, the more responsible we recognize we are for what is and what will be." The core tenet of the Embrey Family Foundation from inception has been to expand awareness. Awareness is the seed that blossoms into changed perception, an enlightenment that leads to understanding and active engagement in the world. But as my awareness grew, it also brought forth struggle. I experienced feelings of outrage, dejection, and sorrow, emotions I had to address and look at. I decided change wasn't happening fast enough, and it was my place to lead the way. I took it on. My philanthropic leadership offered me many incredible opportunities and exhilarating relationships, but also uncomfortable moments, opportunities for self-growth. I found myself in meetings where I had to substantiate my decision-making power, knowing my main and active ingredient for my decisions was the feminine quality of intuition. I felt the deep isolation and pain of others. I grew to understand that all issues tapped into repressed emotions and trauma. They bring forth fear, a fear that is hard to overcome and many times limits a person's willingness to jump in and take action, to share their story, to speak up. I am struggling to find myself in this America. I struggle to understand why we cherish one type of person over the other, why some feel separation is more beneficial than togetherness, why so many bow to the accumulation of wealth, why we do not honor and respect more deeply Mother Earth, who nourishes us and surrounds us with beauty every day, who lights the night sky with stars, the ever-revolving stages of the moon. Just last week, while sitting in a hospital room with my youngest son, my sister headed for cancer surgery in 2 days, and a dear family friend who is like a father to me entering the end of his life, I began to truly contemplate the meaning of hope and how it resides in me. And I realized that back in January, when Mary Pat contacted me, I had been in a state of compassion fatigue. What Roshi Joan Halifax, Zen Buddhist teacher and founder of the Upaya Center in Santa Fe, calls empathic distress or edge states. A state of overwhelm, a state when there is a resonance for what is happening, and yet we can't do anything about it. Our identity is challenged. Our boundaries are completely depleted. For the past 13 years, my personal philanthropic journey has been one of intentional discovery, extensive learning coupled with the true intent to make a difference. Intentional discovery with a connection to the organic nature of this experience we call life. Remaining open to life's many offerings and opportunities, a process guided by spirit. But I felt my process of discovery and all the work I had been doing these last 13 years, the networks I had built, strengthened the dollars we had invested, and the intent with which we partnered with organizations we believed in and trusted was all for naught. All of the issue areas of concern I wrote about in my 2010 speech were just as present today, and some were worse. Nothing had changed. Deep down, I knew this wasn't true. Organizations had been sustained, individuals had been uplifted, issues we cared about had been pushed forth, new initiatives had been creative. But that's how I felt. I just couldn't deal with the hate that was surfacing and the clear and unapologetic goal of the importance of winning at all costs, to the detriment of many and the splitting of the country. I found myself totally depleted. Martin Luther King, in Strength to Love, said, "We must accept finite disappointment, but never lose infinite hope." The Dallas Holocaust Museum's Hope for Humanity Award came at such an important moment in my journey as it brought me into a state of reflection and contemplation. I needed to welcome hope back into my life. My seeds of interest in and love of human rights have always been built on my desire for a better, more equitable world. I still believe that attainment is possible, and I still trust, through community engagement, capacity building, support, and leadership, that we can accomplish that goal. But as I welcome hope back into my life, I now find it resides in a new place. My hope sits in the present. It resides in the now. This hope looks with the eyes of the soul and requires truth-telling. It requires stopping, a periodic cessation, and stepping back. No matter how lonely or uncomfortable I feel, I must look deep inside myself and listen to my inner voice to be ever more clear on who and what I am. A clarity that only comes with internal stillness. Hope is now a state of mind, not a state of the world. I cultivate hope as an unshakable inner state of being, not a promising state of the world. The words of Parker Palmer, inspired by Václav Havel, Czech writer and dissident and first president of the Czech Republic, who said, "The kind of hope I often think about, I understand above all as a state of mind, not a state of the world. Either we have hope within us or we don't. It is a dimension of the soul. It's not essentially dependent on some particular observation of the world or estimate of the situation. Hope is an orientation of the spirit. It transcends the world that is immediately experienced and is anchored somewhere beyond its horizons." How might we dare to hope? By bringing awareness to the unconscious belief systems that inform our behavior and decisions, by noticing and naming our discomforts and innermost fears, and by contemplating both with devotion and sacredness. Through this, we will achieve an inner wisdom that deepens our reason for being and guides us to a more grounded level of consciousness, commitment, and connection. A transformation guided by grace. And through this grace, we invite a deepened sense of wonder into our life. Last week, while sitting in the hospital, contemplating the meaning of hope as my son slept, I came across the words and thinking of Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel, someone you all know so well, but someone I just learned about last week. His teachings and actions have opened my heart as they are congruent with my innermost beliefs, my view of the world, and ones of which I am deeply grateful to experience. In his 1966 essay, Choose Life, Rabbi Heschel said, "Just as we are commanded to love humanity, we are also called upon to be sensitive to the grandeur of God's creation. We are infatuated with our great technological achievements, and we have forgotten the mystery of being alive. We have lost our sense of wonder, our sense of radical amazement at sheer being. We have forgotten the meaning of being human and the deep responsibility involved in being alive. Shakespeare's Hamlet said, "To be or not to be, that is the question. But that is no problem. We all want to be. The real problem is how to be and how not to be." I want to be strong in my tenderness and tender in my strength. I want to share my life with all people, to see the beauty in all of creation. I want to be loving, to lead with an open heart, to start each day with gratitude, to build beloved community. I want to know who I am and to exhibit that knowledge through every aspect of my life. I want to be an upstander. And most importantly, I want to find joy in all I do, to fill my life with wonder. I would like to end with a poem, Hope by Victoria Safford. Our mission is to plant ourselves at the gates of hope, not the prudent gates of optimism, which are somewhat narrower, nor the stalwart, boring gates of common sense, nor the strident gates of self-righteousness, which creak on shrill and angry hinges, nor the cheerful, flimsy garden gate of everything is going to be all right, but a very different, sometimes very lonely place, the place of truth-telling, about your own soul first of all and its condition, the place of resistance and defiance, the piece of ground from which you see the world, both as it is, as it could be, as it might be, as it will be. The place from which you glimpse not only the struggle, but joy in the struggle. And we stand there, all of us, beckoning and calling, telling people what we are seeing, asking people what they see. Thank you.